Do you know what your home sounds like when you sleep? You think you do. You recognize the hum of the refrigerator kicking in, the radiators ticking in the cold, or the house settling in the wind. Those are safe sounds, the sounds of solitude. But have you ever woken up and heard a sound that doesn't belong in the rhythm of the house? A sound that is too organic, like the sound of fabric dragging against a threshold, or a muffled breath that isn't your own. This story was submitted by a person who has chosen to remain anonymous, but I will call him Jimmy and his partner Sarah in the story. Turn off the lights, lock the door, and crawl under the covers, because this is a truly creepy story. It was the middle of July when my girlfriend Sara and I rented the cabin. It was located in northern Värmland, at the end of a gravel road that the grass had started to reclaim. On paper, it was a dream cabin. Timber walls, moss on the roof, and no cell service for miles. We needed it. Sara had hit the wall that spring, and I needed to get away from the city noise. When we walked in, the smell hit us. It smelled of old wood and soft soap, but there was another, fainter scent underneath. Something musty, like wet clothes forgotten in a bag. We aired it out and didn't think more of it. The layout was simple: a large living room with a kitchen, a bedroom, and the small hallway. But in the hallway, there was a detail that felt wrong. A heavy door, painted in peeling grey paint, led down to the basement. It had no handle. Instead, a sturdy hasp was mounted on the outside, locked with a large, rusty padlock. When I texted the landlord, just before we lost signal, I got the reply: "Basement is private. Just old garden tools and junk. Don't worry about it." So we placed our suitcases in front of the door, like a barrier, and started our vacation. But the first night, I slept poorly. I woke up repeatedly to the house creaking, not the usual ticks. This sounded like weight, like someone carefully shifting their center of gravity from one foot to the other. The sound came from below, under the floor. It rained the entire second day. We were stuck inside, and I found the guest book in a drawer under the coffee table. It was thick, with yellowed pages. I started reading aloud to Sara to lighten the mood. The first years, from the early 90s, were idyllic. "Thanks for a wonderful week. The fishing was great. What a hidden gem." But around 2015, something happened with the entries. There were no direct complaints, more strange observations. A family from Gothenburg wrote, "The cabin is nice, but we don't understand why the furniture moves. Didn't the armchair stand closer to the window yesterday?" I flipped further. A couple of pages later, dated 2018. "We can't find our food. A packet of coffee and 2 cans of soup are gone. We might have left it in the car, but I'm sure I put it in the pantry." Sara laughed a little nervously. "Probably ghosts," she said, and took a sip of wine. But I didn't laugh, because I saw a pattern. The closer to the present I got, the more desperate the texts became. The handwriting was often shaky, the sentences short. An entry from last autumn made my stomach turn. It was written in pencil, pressed so hard the paper had almost torn. "He stands by the tree line. He watches us when we eat, but when we go out, he's gone. And why is the basement padlock scratched on the inside of the shackle?" I paused. "Scratched on the inside?" I walked out into the hall. I crouched down in front of the basement door and shone my phone light on the padlock. Sure enough, on the inside of the silver shackle were fresh, deep scratches. as if someone had manipulated the lock often. And right at the threshold, in the gap between the door and the floor, I saw something white. I pulled it out with my fingernails. It was a receipt from a gas station 20 miles away, dated 2 days ago. We hadn't been to that gas station.
"Sara," I said.
My voice trembled. "We have to leave. Now." She thought I was joking at first, but when she saw my face, she understood. Just as we started throwing our clothes into the bags, it happened. The power went out. It didn't just get dark, it became pitch black. The rain battered the roof like gunshots. "It's probably just a fuse," Sara whispered, but she held tight to my arm. We fumbled our way to the window facing the back, towards the forest edge. Lightning lit up the sky for a second, and in the cold glare, we saw him. He stood exactly where the guest book had warned, by the tree line, a tall, gaunt figure. He wore a raincoat that was far too big, and the hood was pulled up, hiding his face in shadow. He stood completely still, arms hanging straight down. He wasn't looking at the forest. He was looking straight into our window. "Who the hell is that?" Sara screamed. Then it went dark again. I turned on my phone flashlight and shone it out. He was gone. But then we heard the sound. Not from outside, but from inside the house. It came from the kitchen. A soft, whistling sound. A melody. Someone was whistling. Slowly.
We rushed toward the front door.
I yanked the handle, but to my horror, something heavy was placed against the door from the outside. The whistling in the kitchen ceased. Instead, we heard heavy, wet footsteps approaching the hallway. Squelch. Squelch. It sounded like boots soaked in mud. We backed into the bedroom and slammed the door. I dragged the dresser in front of the door as a barricade. Sara was crying silently in the corner. I stood with a candlestick in my hand, ready to kill whoever it was. The footsteps stopped outside the bedroom door. The handle was pressed down. The dresser shook as the door was pushed against it. Then, silence. A minute passed. 2. Then we heard a voice. It was raspy, dry, as if it hadn't been used in a long time. It didn't come through the door. It came from the floor. Right by my foot was a knothole in one of the wide floorboards. The voice whispered directly from underneath, so close I could feel the vibrations in the wood. "You forgot to write in the book." Then I understood. He wasn't outside. He had never been outside. The man at the tree line we saw in the lightning, that was just a distraction, maybe a mannequin, or he had run inside faster than we thought. He lived here, under us, the whole time, and he had keys to everything. We heard the basement door out in the hall creak open, but not because he was going down, but because he was coming up.
I don't know how we managed.
But pure terror gives you superhuman strength. I smashed the window pane with the candlestick. We jumped. The glass cut up my hands, and Sara sprained her ankle landing. But we ran. We ran through the dark forest, in the rain, without shoes, without jackets. We ran until we saw the light from a farmhouse 2 miles away. The police arrived an hour later with a dog patrol. The cabin was empty when they got there, but the basement door stood wide open. Down there, they found his home. A mattress, a bucket, and shelves full of stolen goods, canned food, clothes, and keys, hundreds of keys, and the guest book. He had retrieved it from the living room and taken it down. He had written a final entry on the last page, dated that same evening. Thanks for the visit. Sara looks very pretty when she sleeps. They never caught him. He knew the woods too well. He vanished without a trace. But what keeps me awake at night isn't the thought that he saw us. It's the thought of all the other cabins out there, all the other guest books. Last week, when Sara and I were in a store to buy new winter jackets, I saw a shelf with notebooks. On the cover of one of them, someone had scribbled in pencil, small and indistinct, "See you soon." I don't know if it was him. I don't know if I'm imagining it. But I know one thing. I will never, ever again rent a cabin where a door is locked from the outside.
A huge thank you to Jimmy for your story.
Now I need your help. Do you have any scary stories to share? Or do you know of any haunted places I should investigate? Feel free to comment.
Sleep tight now.
If you can.